Good evening. Dr. Brian Schulman, Dean of the School of Health and Medical Sciences, and for those of you joining us as a visitor to Seton Hall, welcome to our campus. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you this evening to our first Interprofessional Perspective Speakers Series event. Interprofessional education, or IPE as it is traditionally called, refers to two or more professions working together as a team with a common purpose, commitment, and mutual respect. Given the impending changes in our healthcare delivery system, IPE is the preferred approach to patient care. Our very own School of Health and Medical Sciences IPE Task Force has worked hard to plan for this evening's special event. At this time, I would like to ask the members of the SHMS IPE Task Force to please stand and be recognized. I would like to acknowledge our task force chair, Dr. Genevieve Zip. I think that I can speak on behalf of all of us that Dr. Zip's dedication and commitment to IPE for the School of Health and Medical Sciences has been incredibly instrumental. Thank you, Dr. Zip. Joining me on stage this evening from the School of Health and Medical Sciences is Dr. Mona Sedrak, Associate Dean of Health Sciences, who will facilitate this evening's question and answer section. It is now my pleasure to introduce our special guests. First, Gabriella Stiefbold. Gabriella is an Occupational Therapy Clinical Specialist at the Kessler Institute for Rehabilitation in West Orange, New Jersey. She has had a 17-year career working with individuals with spinal cord injuries, specializing in wheelchair seating, home modifications, and assistive technology. Gabriella lectures nationally and internationally about spinal cord injury. Welcome, Gabriella. Next, Buffy Wojciehowski. Buffy is a physical therapy clinical specialist at the Kessler Institute and a 2007 graduate of our very own Doctor of Physical Therapy program. She has focused her career on caring for people who have suffered spinal cord injuries and is a clinical supervisor with the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation's Neuro Recovery Network. Welcome back to your alma mater, Buffy. And last, but certainly not least, our special guest, Eric LeGrand. Our guest of honor this evening is a young man whose life experiences have been more challenging than most of us could ever imagine. Yet his charisma allows us to connect with him on a very personal level. When Eric suffered his injury during a Rutgers football game nearly 3 years ago, many people feared what this would mean for his future. Not only is Eric's story remarkable, you will soon find out firsthand that Eric is remarkable. His exceptional commitment to his rehabilitation has been inspiring to us all, and that is just one chapter in Eric LeGrand's life. He is devoted to making a difference in the world, raising awareness nationwide about spinal cord injury and what it means to believe. Eric is also the author of 2 books, the winner of multiple awards, including the ESPY's Jimmy V. Perseverance Award, and a sports commentator for Rutgers football and other media. He is also a retired defensive tackle for the NFL's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Eric's tremendous courage, belief, and strength throughout his rehabilitation has captured the attention of the nation. And now it's our turn to hear about his incredible journey. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a Seton Hall welcome for Eric LeGrand. would now like to turn our program over to Buffy.
Hello, that's me. So we thought we'd start today by having Eric talk a little bit about his experience with healthcare overall, from the moment he was injured to where he is today and how far he's come. So Eric, why don't you start with telling us about what you remember the day you were injured and what you remember on the field and then maybe in the hospital.
Well, from the beginning, you know, some things are a little bit different now that I'm finding out now that my athletic trainer is here that when I first went down that I thought happened that I guess didn't happen. But I thought that they asked me when I first hit the guy, was it my head or neck? But he asked me actually, do I feel anything? Does my neck hurt? And I said yes. I don't remember saying that at all, but he asked me right there, did my neck hurt at the time? And I'm like, I said yes, but I'll never forget what that flash grenade felt like when I hit the guy and I started laying there on the field. And then all my teammates are surrounding me, were ready to celebrate pretty much with me after that play, but I couldn't move, and the only thing I really was focused on, like I said in that video, was trying to breathe. And when I couldn't breathe and I couldn't really move, I thought that was gonna be the end of my life right there, and I thought that was it. And I don't tell a lot of people this, but I did try to close my eyes at that point, thinking that the guy was gonna take me away. But then I got panicked because I couldn't breathe again, and instantly I opened my eyes back up at the time. But I was probably the scariest moment of my life. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything. And then when the doctors are right there and all the trainers are just telling me, asking me all these questions, and then Coach Shiano at the time, who was our head coach, comes running up to me and tells me, all you can do is pray, you gotta pray. And that made me even more nervous, because when someone just tells you to pray, there's nothing else to do, you don't know what can happen or where your life is gonna go at that time. And it was, like I said, the scariest moment of my life as I'm laying there on the field and have all these people asking you questions, and then Coach Shiano telling you just to pray. And that's all I did at the time. And all I wanted to do was catch a gasp of air, and all I was saying is, I can't breathe. That's what it pretty much sounded like at the time before I could sound like this, obviously.
All right. So then you were in an ambulance, right? And do you remember anything from the hospital?
Yeah, well, I actually remember from leading off the field, when I got picked up on the stretcher, somehow I did catch a gasp of air. That's all I was praying for, and I did catch it for a second. So I thought everything was going to be okay once that happened. But then right away I went back to not being able to breathe again after I caught the deep breath. But I wanted to give the crowd that thumbs up to let them know I was going to be okay. And it legit felt like there was a 1,000-pound cinder block on my hand, and I couldn't move anything. And I'm just thinking I have a full body stick and everything's going to be okay. Once it'll just wear off. But as I get closer to the ambulance, I see my mom, and she's hysterically crying. So I told her, everything's gonna be okay, I'm gonna be all right. And they loaded me up in the ambulance, and you're thinking, you see on TV and stuff when they put the oxygen mask on people that they can breathe. They put it on me, and I'm thinking that, I can take a deep breath, and I want to take it again, and nothing happened. They said it was breathing for me, but still, I'm thinking I can't breathe now because I have the oxygen mask on me. I'm thinking it's not working or anything, and I guess I freaked out so much that I eventually passed out. And I remember spotty little bit things when I got to the hospital. It's kind of just like in the movies when you hear the dum 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 dum, and your eyes are opening, boom. I remember the lights. I remember being in the operating room where all these doctors are surrounded by me. And then I remember waking up and no one was in the room at all.
So talk about when you first woke up after your surgery, you said you heard some sounds. I'm assuming you heard a respirator. Did you have any contact with the therapist then, or were your doctors the first ones in the room, or who's the first person you made contact with?
I believe the first person I actually made contact with was my sister, who was kind of sitting over in the corner at the time when I finally came to after everything. And because I got hurt on Saturday, and I really don't remember anything until Wednesday, but when I finally came to, I saw my sister sitting over in the corner, and she came over and she started talking to me. Then my mom came in, and just a bunch of people, all my friends and everything, started coming by. So that's really what I remember when I first saw somebody. But after that, I remember hearing that ventilator sound, and it was the worst, most annoying sound I can ever hear in my entire life. It was just like every 2 seconds, and I was just like, what is this? And then when I knew I was on it, once they told me that it was breathing for me, it kind of scared me even more, because when the nurses would come in, they would try to move me, roll me over and stuff, so I didn't have any sores. And I told them I don't want to move right now because it's going to pop out. And every time they moved it, it popped out. And I told them when it pops out, I can't breathe. They're like, no, you're not gonna die. You're gonna be fine. I'm like, no, I can't breathe. Do not let this thing pop out. And every time they rolled me, it popped right out, like I told them it would. And I would freak out on them. So in the beginning, those first 2 weeks were very scary because, like I said, I'm telling them don't do it, but they're not listening to me anyway because they have to move me, as you know, so I don't have any sores and stuff on my back. But as time was going along, I still did not like the ventilator. I couldn't sleep or anything. I'm laying in the bed all night long. Once my mom left because she stayed up, I believe, for 3 straight days with me, and she started getting delirious, and Rutgers ended up getting her a hotel right down the street. So after that, I was pretty much by myself at night, and I didn't sleep, especially with the ventilator making noise. And then I was scared because I had no idea where I was, who these people that I'm with, and just everything that was happening. It was just a terrifying moment.
Who was the first person to tell you what was going on with you? Was it a parent or a family member, or was it a doctor?
Well, it was my mom actually who told me everything in the beginning, what was going on. Like, you got hurt playing football. I'm asking, am I going to be able to go out to the game next week when we're playing Pitt? And she goes, no, I think you need to relax a little bit longer. You're going to need to be here for a little bit. And I was just like, well, how come? Like, how can I go out there? Everything's going to be all right. And she goes, no, you suffered a serious injury. And then at that time, I believe that's all I could say. And then I think I passed out because I was so exhausted just from the whole surgery, the whole just new life that I was living in. I passed out after that. I remember waking up and coming to a realization what had happened and what had occurred. I remember when I went down to make the hit, but I didn't know pretty much what was going on. I just knew I couldn't move in that bed. I knew that it had to be serious, that I had a ventilator breathing for me, and I had all these, it looked like tubes and stuff hanging up with IVs and things like that. I'm just like, all right, yeah, this is pretty serious, and I guess I am going to be here for a little while, but I just wanted to get the energy back. I felt like I couldn't barely even open my eyes. I was just trying to focus on getting some energy so I can just even talk to people. And I'll never forget the turning moment was when my sister put on Bob Marley, Don't Worry About a Thing, and my mom and my sister were dancing in the room, and I started singing as much as I could, and that was about 5 days after the injury, and I was just like, everything's gonna be all right, just like in the song. And that's what honestly was the turning point of this whole thing that I went through from the beginning.
So tell us about the therapist that you first met. I'm assuming there was respiratory therapy. There's probably some PT, some OT. What did you have when you were in the hospital?
Well, in the hospital, it was this one crazy little, I think short little Italian-looking lady who came in there with army pants on, like a drill sergeant, and she was yelling to me, "Is that the rain?" Well, she came yelling in the room at me like, "Let's go," trying to pump me up like she was one of my coaches, and I'll never forget the look I gave at her. I was just like, who is this little lady screaming at me right now to try to get me up? And like I said, I didn't have any energy at the time. And she goes, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do that. And I remember looking over to my mom to the left like, I'm not ready. She's like, I'm not ready for this. And she goes, no, she's going to be just fine. Don't worry about it. I was just like, all right. She starts stretching my arms out to the side, this and that. And I was like, all right, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Fell asleep right on her within the first 5 minutes of everything. And I was just like, dang, I guess this is what I got to do to get better, but I'm not feeling this right now. But she was definitely trying to push me, and she was working me hard. I wish I remembered her name, but I don't. But there was 2 of them that came in, and they were very energized, and they were ready to get me going, get me to where I needed to be. But I definitely was not ready in that first 5 days of trying to do physical therapy.
How long were you in the acute hospital, the ICU?
I was in ICU. I stayed in ICU the whole time, actually, because they didn't want to transfer me to the floor. So I was there from October 16th when I got hurt all the way till November 3rd when they brought me over to Kessler that first night.
So when you went to Kessler, were you still in the vent?
I was still on the vent when I came over to Kessler, and I'll tell you about my first night at Kessler because it was an experience. I remember that week leading up to them transferring me from Hackensack Hospital, where I was, over to Kessler. They told me, they're like, Eric, you're going to start your therapy, you're going to get back on the road to where you need to be, trying to pump me up. And I was just like, okay, but I knew something was wrong. I knew I still wasn't feeling the right way that I need to feel. And as the days keep on coming along, I'm just like, all right, I'm not feeling really any better today or today. And then the day finally came when it was time to transfer me, and they brought me over there to the hospital, over to Kessler. And I'm meeting everybody. I'm meeting Bonnie, who was the CEO over there, all my nurses, all my aides, everybody, my therapist at the time, just rounds of people coming through the room, and I'm nervous the whole time because now I'm in a whole nother place after I just got used to the people that I was with for 3 weeks, and I'm in a whole nother place with all these new people. I'm thinking, are they gonna know how to take care of me? Do they know what they're doing? Everyone's like, you're in good hands, you're in good hands, but until, the action shows that you're in good hands, I was nervous. So as the day went along a little bit, I got to relax. Rutgers actually had a football game that night. They were playing South Florida, down in South Florida on a Wednesday night, so I was excited for the game to start, get to see my team play again. And as I'm watching the game, everything's fine. I was with my family and everything, just hanging out. And then something happened towards around the fourth quarter. I just started getting real anxious. I didn't want to sit in my same spot anymore. I was just like, can you move me over here? Can you just move my shoulders like an inch to the left? Can you move me back over here? And everyone's like, you just need to relax. I'm just anxious. I don't know what's going on. I'm not comfortable. And as the game, went off and it was time to go to sleep, I fell asleep around, I think, 11:30, 12 o'clock. Next thing you know, I wake up, I'm on a stretcher, and it felt like my eyes were cross-eyed, but my eyes are wide open. My mom told me, and she was hit me in my face like, Eric, wake up. And I said, hit me again, and she hit me. So, and I didn't know who she was, so I tried to go after her. I was trying with all my might to just grab whoever it was and just attack them, but I didn't know what was going on then. My mom was like, Eric, calm down. And I finally realized her voice and who it was, and I tried to calm down, but I couldn't see, and I thought I was cross-eyed, and that was it. And then she's like, you're going to the hospital, things aren't going right now. I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to the hospital? I just got here. What's happening? She goes, Eric, just try to go to sleep, get some rest. Next thing you know, 45 minutes later, they brought me downstairs and they got me into the ambulance and they bring me over to the hospital, and come to find out I had 105.5 fever, and they said I was a 0.5 thing away from frying my brain and causing some real damage to my brain. And I'll never forget, I woke up and I saw my sister again, and I saw our athletic director at the time, Tim Pernetti, and they had the most serious, scariest face on them as they're looking at me like this, and I'm just like, what's going on? They finally got my fever to come down. I'm like, what happened? And that's when they told me I had the 105 fever, this and that, and I'll never forget this. I was like, oh, to my sister, I'm like, am I okay now? They're like, yeah, they got it down. I'm like, can we go to IHOP for breakfast this morning? I will never forget that. My sister looked at me and she said, are you serious right now after that? And I was like, yeah, I'm hungry. And then she was just like, Eric, just go back to sleep. Don't even bother me. And I won't forget, at this time, I'm thinking I can get up. So I went to sit up on my own. I'm just like, I was like, Nicole, my sister's name, I'm like, Nicole, get off of me. And she goes, Eric, I'm not on you. I'm like, Nicole, get off of me. And she goes, Eric, I'm not on you. I'm like, Nicole, get off of me. I can't get up. And she looked at me, Eric, I'm not on you. And I think she got too overwhelmed and she walked out the room that day because I thought I was fine. It was just that fever that really messed me up. And that was my first experience from when I got transferred over there. And that was on November 3rd, and I finally came back to Kessler 5 days later on November 8th.
And you were still on a ventilator?
Still on the ventilator at the time.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think that was your big moment of the first big success that you had at Kessler. So what therapists were involved in your care there? Like what kind of therapists, and how did you wean off of that machine?
I first had Sean McCarthy, who was my OT, and I had Barbara Garrett, who was my PT, and also a bunch of nurses, Michelle Ward. There was so many different people that were in and out of my room helping me out. But I remember the event, they tried to see, maybe can we wean him off of it? Is he ready for it? And I told him, I'm like, please just take this out because I can't sleep at night. It was my first 2 nights at Kessler. I didn't get any sleep because of the event. I'm like, please just take it off. And I remember the doctor at the time, she was just like, I don't think you're gonna last a minute if you take it off. I'm just like, take it off, just take it off. And when she took it off, I lasted a whole hour that time. And I was just like, after that, I'm like, this is gonna be my turning point. I'm not gonna have this in me for the rest of my life. So I came back on. At first, it felt, when they first took it off, it felt like I just played a whole football game. I was out of breath, just like, but it was actually exercises because I was breathing on my own and trying to get my lungs back to where they needed to be, because a lot of people don't know also I had one of my lungs collapse while I was in the hospital. So just getting everything back to where it was again was just tremendous. And the next time I think we worked was the next day. She did it for 2 hours. She took it off, but she was real nervous about it. She didn't want me to go too much. Then the next day after that was 6. Then they went to the 12, and then eventually it was 24 hours. And I was off the ventilator after 5 weeks of when they told me I'll never come off of it again. And it was 5 weeks until I was totally weaned off that ventilator.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about, you're off the ventilator, you're going to PT, OT, they're still bringing the cart with you to therapy just in case there's an emergency. What kind of things were you doing in OT and PT?
At that time, I was trying to work on not the standing table, it was the tilt frame, which is just trying to get my body they put you on, they transfer you over to a mat and they lay you flat and they strap all your limbs together since you have no control over them. And they try to sit you up at certain degrees and try to get all the way up to 90 degrees, which is straight upright. And, you know, at the time, a lot of people don't realize when the spinal cord injury is the higher level, the less, I guess, you can't control your blood pressure. So as they would stand me up, your blood pressure would just drop. There's no reaction for it. The brain telling it to get back, the signal's being blocked. So as people stand up, you pass out, you get lightheaded, and you pass out like, you know, when you stand up out of bed too fast, you gotta sit back down for a second. That's exactly what it's like. So they're trying to, you know, retrain my body and get my blood pressure to work the right way. As I'm going up, I think that started at 10 degrees, then they brought me up to 30 degrees, and then sometimes I'll be like, lay me back down because that would regulate my blood pressure. So I did that for a good while. It was a long time when I was doing that. And they tried me in a standing frame the one time, and you start sitting like I am right now, and they immediately bring you straight up, and I remember I lasted about 3 seconds. And I was just like, bring me back down, because I was gonna pass out right up there. And that was pretty much my experience through the OT. I did a lot of stretching. This was the very beginning of my therapy. A lot of stretching, a lot of breathing exercises so I can maintain this level with my diaphragm and everything, you know, so when I have to go back on the vent. And also just trying to wean me so I can get to that standing frame level so when I came down to OT. So I did a lot of stuff that people, you know, don't think is that much, you know, involved. You think stretching, you know, or you stretch, what kind of therapy is that? Or also breathing exercises with the balloon on my chest trying to get some blow. So things like that a lot of people don't realize how much it has helped me to where I am today. That's a lot of stuff that I was doing in the very beginning when I got hurt.
So a lot of stretching, a lot of positional tolerance exercises. So let's talk about sort of the adaptive equipment that you were provided so you could be a little more independent on the floor. I see a lot of patients that have to be pushed around in their wheelchairs. So let's talk about what I think Jill is here today, what she did for you in your wheelchair.
See, I hate things in my face, and this thing I managed with it or in my mouth. And there was this chair that was a sip and puff where you actually had to put it in your mouth and you can drive with it like with your teeth. I don't even know how you do it. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want to put something in my mouth. And it was like, you have one other option. And there's this joystick thing, which you see, which is in front of my face. It gets me. A lot of people think this is my ventilator all the time. They think, this is breathing from me, or am I drinking water out of this thing? But I'm like, no, this is how I drive. So this thing was perfect for me. You know, at first it was rough when I first started driving in this thing. I couldn't control it. I crashed into a few walls. I hurt my foot. Thought I almost broke my foot one time when I hit the wall. It was bad. My arm got stuck up at one time and it was still going. But I learned that this is my mobility now. This is how I live. And this chair is honestly perfect for me. You got so many different things into it. A lot of people say this is the Mercedes-Benz of wheelchairs. It controls at my house now. It opens my doors up. I can turn on TVs with it. I'm trying to think what else is in it. It raises up. I can recline back, put my feet up. It's like a home. It's like a couch, pretty much a couch I'm just traveling around in, and it's perfect for me. But like I said, I'm so happy that Jill and them introduced me to this joystick, because I don't know how easy it would have been for the sip and puff, but this joystick, this is how I get around. This is how I maneuver. This is the way that I live my life now.
Going back to the vent real quick, I know when you're on a vent, a lot of people have difficulty swallowing. So let's talk about your weight loss from the time you were injured to you were coming off that vent. How much weight did you lose?
Well, I got hurt when I was playing. I was at 275 when I was playing, and I dropped down to 196 pounds when I first got hurt. And I haven't been 196 pounds since I was a freshman in high school. I came in at 205 as a freshman, but I've definitely been listening to nutritionists a little bit too much, as you can tell now. But when I first got hurt, I didn't have an appetite. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want anything to know anything about it, even though they had a feeding tube in me, and they told me I probably wouldn't come off of that. They weaned me off of that, and I was able to eat solid foods again. And never forget those tests that we had to do. At the hospital, they used to come in and give you a little bit of applesauce, 1 scoop of applesauce, and they would do an x-ray of it, and they would make sure everything's going down in the right way. Because with this injury, they didn't know if I swallowed, it would end up in my lungs and end up giving me pneumonia and whatnot. So they had to do all these tests, and I finally passed all my tests over at Hackensack, and I was able to eat a little bit more and drink a little bit more. That's all I wanted was some blue Gatorade, and applesauce at that time was tasting like filet mignon, because I haven't ate, it was weeks, and every time they gave me the applesauce, I was just like, more and more, and they were like, no, we can't give you more. So I finally passed the test and everything. I could finally start eating a little bit more, instead of 1 spoonful. And then I got moved over to Kessler, and I have to redo the whole test again because they said, no, we don't want to transfer, we want to see it ourselves. And I was just like, this is terrible. So I finally passed my test there, and I don't know what happened. I just completely lost my appetite after I passed my test there. I didn't want to eat anything. My mom would have to force me to eat Dunkin' Donuts every morning. Like, here, just eat this donut, please. And I was like, I don't want it. I would eat half of it, and then for dinner, if you give me McDonald's now, I'll kill it. But back then, but I was like, I don't know what happened. It's just, they said it comes naturally that, you lose your appetite, this and that. And I was 196 pounds, and then from there, it came back little by little, and then I gained my weight back, then working out too. I got, some more muscle back, so I'm not really as muscle atrophied as a lot of people are in this situation, so I've been very blessed with that. But in the beginning, it was hard because I wanted to eat, and then once I could, I didn't want to eat, but now, you can see I'm just fine with it. I'll eat anything.
All right, let's go back to therapy that you received at Kessler. And in patients, you were also exposed to another form of therapy called functional electric stim. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I actually got to learn about it's called the RTI bike, I believe, and it's when they hook up all these stems to your arms, or they can hook them up to your legs, and you're riding a bike. It's getting the blood flowing on pretty much throughout your body, and I really enjoyed that. At first, it was hard for me because I couldn't sit up straight because of my blood pressure. It would just drop, so I would have to try to ride the bike by leaning all the way back, and we rode the bike for an hour at that time. So that was a big test for me too, trying to maintain my blood pressure and keeping it upright, because sitting straight up like this at the time was pretty much impossible. And then I had to ride the bike in order for it to do it. And I'll never forget, Sean used to tell me that I used to cheat those sometimes by using the joystick and tilt myself back afterwards, because I was like, I can't do it, I was gonna pass out. But they put all these stems on your biceps, depends what type of muscle groups you're trying to get at, but they have it all on your arms, and you're pretty much riding a bicycle, and it shocks your muscles to do it, so your muscles are actually working, even though I'm not signaling them to work, it's doing it for you, and it keeps your muscles from atrophying as much, and it really worked for me. I did the legs and I did the arms, and I did that for probably the whole time I was pretty much there, which was for 5 months as an inpatient, so I really liked doing the stimulation. We did it a little bit too, Gab and Cindy, when I was doing that last year with the bike, and now we still do the stimulation with the arms too, so I enjoy doing it.
So you were in inpatients for 5 months. Is there anything else you want to add from that?
Yeah, my inpatient experience was definitely a great experience too, but I definitely could not wait to get out of there. The hallways were getting long going down that one hallway every day, but I can't thank Kessler enough for what they did to me, because they got me off that ventilator, got me back eating solid foods, and got me to where I need to be, and taught me how to live like a life like this, and also all the equipment that I need. They trained my mom the right way to take care of me. So many great things that they did for me at that time that I had no idea about. I was a Division I football player. I had never knew anything about spinal cord injuries and what goes into it so much, because a lot of people think, you're paralyzed, you're just sitting in a chair. No, there's so many things that go on internally into this, or pressure sores, things like that, weight shifts that no one ever knows about, and that really can affect people, because people get infections from that, and eventually they can die from it. So Kessler did a great job with me and training me those first 5 months and teaching me how to learn and live with an injury like this.
So there was a lot of education involved for his family and his friends. He was kind of alluding to that. Tell us a little bit about what kind of equipment you were given to take home with you to make life a little easier for your family and yourself.
The best equipment that I got was my bed that I have. It's an air mattress bed. It's not, because if you lay me on a regular bed, you have to wake up every 2 hours and turn me to the left, then wake up another 2 hours, turn me to the right, so I don't get any pressure sores. But I have an air mattress bed now that rotates me at whatever degrees you set it to, and it can rotate you to the side that much, and it relieves the pressure off of each side. And that was honestly the best thing, so my mom can actually get a full night's sleep if I don't have to call her for anything else. You just hit rotation on the bed, brings me to the left, brings me to the right, and brings me to the middle all night long. And in the beginning, it was kind of weird because you would wake up, something's rotating you, but it's still, nowadays, I'm getting a lot of spasms, which a lot of people don't know about too, is when you stretch out my arms and stuff, my arms will start shaking, things like that. I always just say, it's letting me know my muscles are working below my level of injury, but at night, sometimes they get very violent after laying still for a little bit, and it wakes me up sometimes in the middle of my sleep, but I pass right back out afterwards. But that's probably one of the best things that I had, the bed, and also my standing frame at home, even though I passed it now, and I'm with you every day walking, because I needed that in the beginning. I actually had a tilt table at home too, but by the time I got it, I was surpassed that, which is all good things that, of course I need them in the beginning, but knowing that I can pass them and go to the next level is even better, even though I buy them and I'm not using them right now, at least I've surpassed it.
What about adaptive equipment to help your family, for example, transfer you?
Oh, that my house now, that I finally got to move into in May, we built this is like this rack that's in the ceiling, and you put a sling in it. That's how my mom gets me into bed at night. She puts this sling under me, that's probably the hardest part because I'm not the smallest guy, and it's hard to bend before, sometimes lift up my legs. But then now she can, instead you used to have to do it manually, there was this thing that she had to roll, it's called a Hoyer lift. She had to roll it on the mat and push me around and get me into the bed, which was taking a toll on her. And now when I got to move into my new house, I have this adaptive thing that's in the ceiling, and you pretty much just lower this crane down and it picks me up, and you can just slide me across the whole floor. It's perfect for my mom, so she doesn't have to hurt her back anymore. So that's been a huge relief on her, unless my friends are around, because then they'll just pick me up and throw me in the bed. But on those nights when they're not there, my mom has been able to do it, so it's been perfect on her, and it's not hurting her back anymore.
Good. So you were in inpatients for 5 months, and then you transferred to outpatients with us.
Yeah.
What do you remember when you first came to outpatients? What struck you as something different maybe from inpatients?
The level of intensity of outpatient therapy than inpatient therapy. As you're an inpatient, everyone's all nice, want to keep you nice, healthy, safe, and everything's okay.
We want to do that in outpatients.
Yeah. An outpatient, you get Buffy, she throws you right on the mat. It's like, all right, let's go. We got to do this and that. You're like, whoa. It's just like shocking you, but it was definitely taking it up to another notch, and that's what I needed. In football, that's what I used to do. Practice, you take it up to another notch. So when I got moved over to outpatients in Buffy, I was working with Buffy, and at the time, Gab and Cindy, there wasn't just like no easy stuff anymore. If you couldn't do it, it's not like, all right, you can't do it right now, we'll try it again tomorrow. So no, you gotta do it, otherwise you're not gonna be here that long. So you do whatever they say in order to get better. You gotta have the right mindset and the right attitude, otherwise you're gonna digress. And I was not gonna let myself digress. I was like, I'm gonna listen to whatever Buffy says. They know what I need to do, so I'm gonna put my trust in them.
Do you remember what our first goal was?
Was our first goal was it sitting on the standing frame? Oh, the standing frame. The standing frame. They want, in order for what I do now is walking on the NRN. It's the Neuro Recovery Network treadmill that you saw in the video, I believe, when I was walking on it. I need to be able to maintain the level of standing for 30 minutes. And in that standing frame, like I said, the first time I ever did it in the standing frame, I stood up, and 3 seconds later, I need to go back down, otherwise I was going to pass out. So my level.
What were some of the tricks we used to keep your blood pressure up?
In order for me to do it for 30 minutes, sometimes I would get a little bit dizzy. At the time, I would be like 15 minutes in, I'm like, whoa, I'm getting a little bit dizzy. We found out that if you make my body spasm, as I was telling you about, sometimes when my body's just starts shaking, it brought my blood pressure back up to my head, so I wasn't gonna feel faint anymore. And that's what we started doing. When I was standing, she would stretch my right arm, it'll bring the pressure back, and then she'll shake my stomach. And I remember you used to punch me too, my stomach. You would punch my stomach, and it would make somehow.
There was no punching.
Yes. You would punch my stomach.
Shaking.
And it felt like a punch, and then it would bring my pressure back up, and that's how we realized that all you have to do is pretty much make him spasm, and then that was it. The pressure would come back up, and I'll be fine. and we got it to up to a half hour like we needed to. And I was able to get on that treadmill.
So we did 88 sessions of sort of traditional therapy, which entails, sitting, balance, transfer practice, learning to stand and tolerate standing again, a little bit more family caregiver education, but they didn't need very much. And I think he had 88 sessions of traditional therapy. And when we discharged him, we didn't let him leave the hospital. We just transferred him to another program. And the program is specific to the walking that you saw on the treadmill, so that's what we still do to this day. But the big thing was that he had to tolerate standing and be able to handle an hour on the treadmill and then 30 minutes off the treadmill. And then he did continue with OT at that time too. So we got him up on the treadmill. When he started, he was not able to sit at all. Not for 5 seconds, not for 1 second. He had to be touched constantly. So do you remember how long that took?
Yeah, after I believe it was our second re-eval, so that was 40 sessions in. After 40 sessions of doing the NRM training on that thing, I was able to sit up by myself. At that time, I think I was at a minute. I was sitting up by myself for a minute after doing 88 traditional sessions of therapy. I couldn't sit up or anything at all. Like she said, I need to be touched all the time, so I didn't fall over that way. But after 40 sessions on that treadmill, I was able to sit up by myself for a minute. And then as long as we kept on going, it was my long. I was almost hit. I think it was 25 minutes I got to hit, and then I had to go over to OT, so we had to stop. So as we kept on going on and on, I started getting stronger and stronger. Things started coming back, and I was staying healthy too. When I'm up on that treadmill every day, it gets my blood flowing, keeps my muscles moving as I walk my legs. So many things go into it that keep me healthy. Now, being able to balance myself now, even at home, if I want to sit on the couch, I can get on the couch and balance myself. So my mom will not have to, have to watch me all the time, because all the therapy that I've been able to do has honestly been amazing.
I don't know how many, for his level of injury, how important that was. So for you and I, thinking about just sitting up seems like it's not a big deal. And for someone with his level of injury, being able to sit up on his own is a very significant task to do for that long of a period of time. So that's actually pretty phenomenal, and a testament to a lot of the work that he's been doing. For OT, OT got involved in this Neuro Recovery Network program in terms of really looking at focusing on the upper extremities. So they were doing all this treadmill training, and they looked at the fact that there were some changes in the upper extremities, in his arms and in his trunk, that we wanted to be able to capture some of that. So myself and his other OT, Cindy, who share him in this program, have been working on him in terms of doing some of that functional electrical stimulation, first on the cycle. And now Eric is actually part of a pilot program at Kessler and at Fraser Rehab. So he's one of just 2 or 3 patients in the country who's working on this pilot program where we're looking at electrical stimulation to specific muscle groups, looking at different patterns of movement. So we really are trying to fine-tune certain movements where he's reaching forward or looking to grasp something, and we're putting electrical stim on back muscle, shoulder, wrist, hand, to try to activate some of those paralyzed muscles. And assist with all those other things that stim will help with, so decreasing the atrophy and improving circulation and helping with some of the spasticity that he has. So he's actually been doing that in addition to PT 5 days a week, so he's with us for quite a long time every day.
The program is extremely intensive. It's an hour and a half in PT and then another hour and a half to 2 hours in occupational therapy, depending on setup time. So he's doing that 5 days a week, and he's been doing it for 5 days a week for
over a year now.
Over a year, yeah. 300 sessions, I believe, so well over a year. So I kind of want to get away from some of the therapy stuff because that's sort of up to date where we are now. He's able to sit with supervision. I mean, I don't walk out of the room. Actually, let's talk about what kind of freedom that gave you at home. I know that was our first goal, was I want to sit, but what did you want to be able to do with sitting?
I wanted to be able to sit, and also I wanted to be able to control my trunk where I can move myself forward. So my mom, at night when she has to take off my shirt, she has to have to pull my whole body. I can be able to control myself. Well, see, I'm driving now. Right. Bring myself forward and also bring myself back too, so she doesn't have to push me back up after she brings me all the way down. Things like that, being able to help her out, I really wanted to do, because I used to see how she would strain and hurt her back, because like I said, I'm not a small guy, so I wanted to help her out as much as possible. And it does help her out. I'm starting to do more now, bringing my arms all the way down. We're always working out outside work. Remember when I'm trying to pull my body back up? because the more gravity, I guess, my arms break down, that's the more weight, it's harder for me to sit back up. So now we're starting to put my arms farther and farther down to see how far I can get myself back up now, which is pretty impressive because I'm strengthening up these muscles that I have that are working.
And what about the sitting? What was your first goal with sitting?
My first goal was sitting, I was just trying to get for 10 seconds at the time, but now, like you said, we usually consistently probably do about around 4 minutes each, or 4 minutes.
I was really hinting
consistently
at
every
when
day.
you sat on a couch.
Oh, I got on the couch,
You would come into therapy every day. I want to sit on a couch.
that was pretty, one of my milestones because I got to put it, I remember I put it up on Twitter and my Facebook and everyone went crazy about it because I was finally sitting on the couch by myself again without any other support or anybody around me. I just had a band wrapped around my legs so they didn't fall out to the side, and it was just a pretty cool experience finally to sit on the couch and get relaxed, watch a movie and watch TV. Now I don't really get on the couch too much more now. I just hang out in my chair, but being able to do that and whenever I wanted to was just a tremendous feeling.
So let's go beyond therapy a little bit and talk about sort of your accomplishments since your injury. Dean Schulman mentioned you wrote a book. What other organizations are you involved in or outreach programs have you done?
Well, I really want to talk about what I'm really focusing on now is my foundation, Team LeGrand. You can go to www.teamlegrand.org and you can see my whole website. I'm partnered with the Christopher and Dana Reed Foundation, and it's to help people with the quality of life, also help people when they first get hurt emotionally. How do you handle an injury like this? How does it, affect the family? There's people there, there's a resource center that explains and helps people out go through something like this. And also physically, there's to raise money so we can build more of those NRNs all throughout the country. I believe it costs $90,000 to install into one of those NRN treadmills until, what is it, how many do we have in the U.S.? 6 of them?
Yeah, about 6 now.
About 6 in the whole USA, so.
6 clinics and probably 9 or so centers that also have the machine.
So we want to get those more out there because you see how well it's done for me, how well I've been doing with it. I believe more people should be able to have this, and that's why I'm trying to raise more money around spinal cord injuries, things like that. Eventually find a cure for paralysis too with the research. So if you guys ever want to look at my website, you can also join my team for $52, which is my football number. You get one of my foundation t-shirts, you get one of my foundation bracelets, and you also get the updates on everything I'm doing, speaking engagements, or how my progress is coming along. So definitely guys, check out www.teamlegrand.org/join and join my team, be a part of it, and help so many other people out there. And there's 1.5 million people out there that are dealing with some sort of paralysis. So, and, I'm here to advocate for them and talk for them. So if you guys really want to help out, please join my team at teamlegrand.org/join and be a part of the movement, help find that cure for paralysis so we can all live our dreams, like I said in that, and go back onto MetLife Field and get up and walk again, because I know it's going to happen.
So I just want you to talk a little bit about your work with the Christopher and Dana Reed Foundation that you mentioned. You were recently at the White House.
Yes.
You didn't get to meet the president, although he was in the building. What did you do there?
Yeah, I went down to the White House with the Christopher and Dana Reed Foundation as an advocate, pretty much just explaining what's going on, the funding that we need for more of the NRNs and programs like that. And I was showing them how well it's done for me, but I got to meet with Obama's first advisor, Valerie Jarrett, and explain to her my story and everything, and she was just so touched by it. She said that she knew who I was. She had heard of my story before. The president heard of my story before. So being able to hear your story, but being able to put a face on it in the White House like that was just like a huge moment for it. And I'm hoping in the future when we start asking them for funding or certain things for them to back us up on, I hope it really touched them. That one time I got to go down there, like I said, I've been all over the place, but I'll never forget going to that White House. It was a crazy experience.
Let's talk about how you got there. Did you have to drive?
Yeah, I did have to drive down there with my academy van. I actually have a story about it. My van that day, one of the hydraulics blew out on the van. So if it blew out, that means it's gonna be a bumpy ride. So I was supposed to go down the night before. Didn't happen. I had to rent the academy van the next day. They brought me down. And of course, the check engine light comes on when we're writing about Delaware. So the driver pulls over to the side. I have a meeting at the White House at 1:30, and this was around, at this time, this one was around 10 o'clock. And so he pulls over to the side, and actually we were in Maryland, not Delaware, Maryland. And he's like, I gotta call another bus, whatever, and they're like, okay, and we're like, no, just you gotta drive down there, there's no way I'm gonna miss this meeting. I'm fine with it, but the dispatcher's telling us no. And then the dispatcher calls back and is like, all right, we want you to pull over there. The guy should be down there in about 2.5 hours with another van. And my mom was like, no, go, just go. And we went and we made it down the rest of the way. And it was kind of being in that moment was just very stressful because we didn't think we were going to make it down to our meeting in the White House. You can't just blow off someone like Valerie Jarrett, the first advisor of the president. And you know, we made it down. They ended up having to drive the next van all the way down to D.C. to meet us and switch it off because the van something was wrong with the engine and everything. But we pushed it to the limit and we made it down there for that meeting. It felt like it wasn't meant to be, but we made it happen.
So talk a little bit about travel. You don't always take a van, do you?
No, I don't always take a van. I gotta fly a lot of places too, and I like to bring my friends with me when I'm flying. I had a speaking engagement out in Vegas, so if I go to vacation out there, or LA, Miami, all over the place where I've been talking.
How do you do that? How do you organize that flying? What does that entail for you?
It entails a lot on my mom. My mom has to call United. Well, good thing once you call the people, you get all the connections and the contacts next time you need them. And when you first don't know anybody, you got to find out what do I got to do and go through this whole process. So you call up their help service over there, and they tell you what to do. You know, they help you to disability services. You tell them what you need, this and that, and then they try to help you as much as possible. And they did, you know, the first time I traveled, I had, you know, the people lift me up and things like that. But then you look at my chair, this chair is just not no ordinary chair. You can't just push it onto somewhere. There's ways to put it in neutral, there's ways to take it out of neutral in order for me to move. And right now there's no adaptive switch on it to help drive it. So you have to physically push this chair, and it's 412 pounds. So when you're pushing this chair, it's a strain, and then lifting it up. And my mom had to show the people where to lift it up and how to push it. Otherwise they're gonna break this. It's very stressful flying because they can just break your chair, you know, things just get thrown around on it. So my mom got in touch with one of the guys who's one of the head guys, Joey, over there. And my mom went down, she's every time still, goes down on the runway, got into the cargo hold with the people, putting my chair on there just to make sure everything went right. She had to take off this headrest, bubble wrap it. There's so many things that can go wrong, but it's very stressful when I travel, but we pretty much got it down packed now. I've been a lot of different places, and we have a lot of different contacts to get into now. So when I go there, so I just call this person, but from the beginning, when I first traveled, it's not easy, and especially when I just travel with my friends, my mom's a nervous wreck because she doesn't believe that they're gonna, you know, go through all the protocol situations that she makes up for this chair. So, but you know, it was stressful, but after now living with this for almost 3 years, we've kind of got it down packed on what to do.
So I want to say thank you for having us. I know there's some questions if we want to start.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Buffy. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Gabriella. Today, we are so privileged to have you with us, and we're so privileged to be able to do a little bit of a question and answer session. And so this is the little bit of a question and answer session from our symposium. And the first thing we'd like to do is to ask some questions of Eric's initial healthcare team. And we're privileged to have Dr. Robert Monaco in our audience. If you'll join us, Dr. Monaco. He's the Director of Sports Medicine and Assistant Athletic Director at Rutgers University. He's been the team physician since 1996. And also, we're so happy to have Mr. David McCune in the audience. He's the Director of Athletic Training Services and Head Football Athletic Trainer at Rutgers. And he's been with Rutgers since 2000. Both Dr. Monaco and Mr. McCune led the immediate medical emergency response when Eric was injured in 2010 on the football field. So the first question I have the privilege of asking you on behalf of the faculty and the staff and the students of School of Health and Medical Sciences. Immediately following the accident, can you describe the state on the field? In your own words, can you tell us what you said, how you communicated with Eric, and also what was your first impressions of the severity of his injuries and how you were able to really communicate with him about the extent of his injuries and to keep him as calm as possible?
First, I'd like to thank the School of Health and Allied Sciences to have us here to speak with Eric. This actually is the first time that Doc and I have actually spoken regarding anything that happened that day publicly. Running out, as you saw the video, I saw him postured. Not sure if it was head or neck related, so I wanted to be sure what we're dealing with. We got out there. Not as young as I used to be, so my assistant got there first, which is fine, because I'm comfortable with any of my staff getting the head. He immediately got the head as we ran out. I'm not sure if you've seen the videos from the older footage, but he actually shook his head 3 times, which I didn't know before we got there. The third time we were there, we both yelled, "Stop shaking your head," because we didn't know what was going on. But Mike secured his head, and I said, "Is it your head or neck?" Eric actually remembers more than he thinks. You couldn't understand him, so I reached in, pulled his mouth guard out. He said, "I can't breathe." I said, "Well, is it your head or neck?" He goes, "My neck." So I radioed to the security guy. We have radios. We need EMS, which I think they were probably already coming. But he said, I can't breathe. It's very raspy, low voice. I said, "Well, don't speak. Concentrate on breathing and look into my eyes, because I want to give him something to focus on." I said, "All you're going to do is follow my direction. Just don't do anything but breathe, follow my direction." By that time, other people were there, and I had his left hand, someone else had his right, people's feet. I said, "I want you to squeeze your left hand." Nothing happened. And squeeze your right hand. Whoever had it indicated nothing. The same thing for his feet. And then I said, "All right, I want to see if you have any feeling. I want you to blink your eyes twice if you don't feel it. That way, if an occasional blink, we wouldn't know." So, same thing, hands and feet. He was able to blink twice, indicate he didn't feel because they were rubbing and stuff. By that time, we decided to spine board him. So we did the 6-person lift, brought the board up from the feet to the head. Of course, Mike, led the charge because he had the head to begin with. And once we had him spine boarded, then Doc kind of, I might interject, when he was having issues gaining weight, he did like the Gatorade shakes, which I provided, but once I saw how much weight he had gained, I was like, no more.
It was very clear on the field that this was a high-level injury, and we were really concerned about his breathing. We were concerned that he was going to fatigue out. He was having a hard time taking deep breaths, so it was very clear. Our first charge was really to make sure we get him to a hospital and into the squad as quick as we can in a safe way. So we really worked very closely with the paramedics in getting him up onto a spine board very, very fast and very efficiently, and getting him into the squad. And on the way over to the hospital, we were concerned about his airway as well, whether he was going to fatigue out. It was clear that he had a high-level spinal injury, and so we were really monitoring things very, very closely and trying to really get him as quick as we can to the trauma center to really work on that in that regard. I must say the most important thing was getting him to relax, and Dave, who knows all the athletes very well there, was really key to have the athletic trainer working with him, because it was someone, he knew the medical staff, he trusted us, he was able to listen to us and try to get him to relax as best we can in this whole process, which I think was really a key critical role for us to kind of work together as a team to really get him to the hospital for more definitive care.
Thank you. Eric, I know you've talked about the difficulty in breathing and the panic that you felt, and both Dr. Monaco and Mr. McCune have also talked about that. It seems that the relationship that you had with both the AT staff and the medical staff really impacted your ability to keep focus and stay as least panicked as possible. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, these guys, I was with them for 2.5 years doing PRP shots on my patella tendon with Doc, and then, of course, all the stuff out in the training room, getting stem, ice, and cold tubs, things like that. So I really trusted these guys, and I gotta give them credit, because I'll never forget when you told me you had me on a stretcher in the ambulance in 7 minutes, which is definitely a huge reason why I am where I am today, because there's so many people that are out there for hours, and when someone really doesn't realize what happened if they're by themselves or anything. These guys had me in the ambulance on the way to the hospital in 7 minutes, and that was definitely huge, because I didn't fatigue out in my breathing. I was able to get into the ambulance, get in the mask, and they realized, diagnosed what had happened. So I give them all the credit in the world, because like I said, if you think about it, 7 minutes is really not that long from when I went down all the way to when I'm in the ambulance. They worked really fast, proficiently, they're very professional, so I want to always thank you guys for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we would like to ask Eric and his current healthcare team on the stage today a few questions that have been designed by the students and the faculty of Seton Hall University, the School of Health and Medical Sciences. The questions will be posed by the IPE task force and on behalf of the students and the faculty. And so I'll ask Dr. Denise Rizzolo to ask the first question.
Hello again. I'm Denise Rizzolo. I'm a physician assistant, and of course, once again, we want to thank you for coming tonight. My first question, or our first question, is two-part. From your perspective as a patient, how have you seen the various members of your rehab care team interact with one another? What effect do you think it has had on your day-to-day care?
I say all the time, Kessler is like a big family. You got Maureen always calls the mom, and then we're like all her kids who are in all our outpatient gym up there. And it's just like a big family. I consider these people my best friends. I see them more than I see my friends, anybody, my family. I'm with them every day, and it's been huge because when you can go into an atmosphere like that, knowing that everyone's with each other and for each other, and everyone's working for one goal, it doesn't matter if someone's working with their patient over there or this patient over there. Everyone has one mission, and that's to get their patient better. And if someone needs help, you can, hey, Dan, come over here real fast. Or Maureen, just come here just like that. Lindsay, come over here. It's just that atmosphere that you're in every day. It's not like people have all drama, like, oh, I hate this person over there, I hate this person. No. It's like everyone works together, everyone's a family, and it honestly makes the patients feel a lot more comfortable when you go in there, and especially when you joke around too, especially because a lot of people in this situation I hear, when I talk to other patients, they're like, do you get treated like a normal person when I go out there? And a lot of times I do. I'm fortunate. People, treat me like I'm not even in this chair, but other people don't. Every time we go into the therapy, though, it's like we're just like everyone else out there, and that's the most important thing for me and so many other patients that are going through this.
Thank you, Eric. Our next question is from Dr. Diallo from the Speech Language Pathology Program.
I'm Vikram Diallo. I'm a speech language pathologist. Our question is, what qualities of a healthcare professional on your current team do you appreciate the most? What qualities do you appreciate the most amongst all of your healthcare professionals?
What qualities are? Oh, okay. What qualities for my therapist? Each person, each one of them are very different, but it's all like I feel like I can joke around and tell them anything. That's the best thing, that I can be as open as I want to be with all of my therapists and everybody. And like I said before, it's like a big family. So I definitely appreciate Buffy's toughness because she gets me going when I start joking around or slacking off. This one keeps me going. Gab, I feel like I could talk to just like she's my sister and everything about anything, just like with Granger too, Cindy. Over there, it's like I feel like each person plays a role. Like this one's my cousin, this one's my sister, this one's my best friend, things like that. I really feel like that. So that's the best qualities I can say out of them. That I can open up to any of them at any time they're there. If I need to work really hard with something, or if I need them even to come out and support me at an event, they'll all be there for me. Things like that. That's the best quality because this is taking time out of their normal lives that they'll go out of their way for me, as they were all just there for my Jersey retirement on Saturday. They're taking time out of their life just to come support me, things like that. Honestly, you don't find that in a lot of people nowadays. They're genuine people.
Thank you. Our next question is from Dr. Jim Phillips, Department of Physical Therapy.
Hi, Eric. Jim Phillips from PT. We'd like to know, when did you first notice some sensory return and some motor return, and how did it affect your function? That's for you or the health professionals.
In the beginning, and it was probably about almost 2 months into my whole process when I first got injured, when I started to feel more sensory coming back in my arms a little bit. I started feeling a little bit below my chest, which when I first got hurt, I could barely move my head and I could barely feel anything even on my neck, even where my trach was. But things started to come down more, and as I've gotten to feel even the bottom of I can feel the pressure on the bottom of my foot. Can't tell you if it's hot or cold, can't tell you what it is, but I can feel the pressure of something being there, which is pretty good. So things like that started coming back, I guess, 2 months after the injury, and then my shoulder started coming back, I think 6 weeks after, because like I said, I felt like I was pinned to the board, but then after a while, I started shaking, things like that, I bring myself forward. So it's all from my therapy, working hard, and just the tremendous surgery that they had on me, putting everything back in alignment.
I think functionally, one of the biggest things right now that he sort of alluded to was where he's with Cindy and OT working on sitting back up again. So with his level of injury, typically he's not able to help, or they're not able to help move themselves back and forth for weight shifts, to adjust themselves if they're not comfortable. So he's really starting to have a lot of trunk control and extension. We do a test called modified functional reach where we have the patient lean as far forward as they can. I mean, they should reach, but he can't do that yet. So he went from, he couldn't even sit to maybe leaning a quarter inch, half inch. Now he's consistently leaning 7, 8 inches under control forward and backwards. And I think he's like 2.5 to 3.5 laterally. Which is huge, because you see how much movement he has. He can make himself comfortable. If he's riding in his chair and he hits a bump, a sidewalk or something, it will jolt him out of position, and he can sort of use his body to get back in the right position.
And then OT, we actually changed the protocol a little bit in terms of his pilot, where we weren't doing electrical stim to the wrist and hand, and we started to see some movement in, fingers, different digits, and more recently in his left wrist extensor. So for that reason, we actually shifted the protocol and started to incorporate some of the electrical stimulation in the wrist and the hand to try to address those muscles as well and try to help with activating those muscles and some more function towards recovery.
Thank you. I think we would love to spend the evening asking you questions. You have such a wonderful story to tell, and we have so many questions and not enough time. So I'm going to take the liberty of asking one last question for you and your team on behalf of the students and the faculty today. The theme of our school is interprofessional education and team-based education. So the question I have for you and for the faculty has for you is, can you and your healthcare team comment on what makes you and the other members, including your mom, a team? And do you believe it is important to function as a team, and why?
It is very important to function as a team and having one mission. Like my therapist, they have my mom's number if they needed something that like urgent or emergency, they're comfortable being able to just call my mom, like, we need this, we need that, or even getting here, Buffy called my mom, where are you at, or where do you need to go, things like that. It's very important to function as a team. We're on the same page, especially as much time as I spend with them every day. If imagine we didn't get along, it would be terrible. It would be terrible sessions. And we all get along with everybody in the gym. So things like that is honestly drives the patients, drives them to want to do their job more effectively and better, and drives me to want to get better, because we're working all as one group. And if you don't do that, things can go all types of ways. You have no way, like it would be miserable every day waking up knowing that I'm going to go into a situation that I don't like. I wake up every day knowing that I'm going to go talk and have a good time with my therapist and work at the same time, so I know I'm going into a great atmosphere. That's the best part about it.
Buffy?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think as far as team goes, it's really helpful that we work so closely together in one big room. It's not just me as a therapist, but we have 4 or 5 locomotor training technicians who work with him for an hour and a half every day also, and they have degrees in different backgrounds, not physical therapy, maybe exercise physiology or biology, or if they have an interest in athletic training or personal trainers. But we also work with the OT staff in the room, and the wheelchair services are in the room. So you have, at any time, 10 or 12 professional eyes on every patient, and we get to bounce ideas off each other and, walk over and help each other out and, maybe try this position. And I think it benefits all of our patients that we work so well as a team and really get the job done for everyone.
And I think you mentioned Karen LeGrand, and I think all throughout his journey, she's been, up there in the forefront and really a great advocate for it. And for us, it's just invaluable to have that and to make sure that, the young therapists in the room, making sure they're really incorporating who's important to the patient. So Eric has a great network of his mom, his friends, and they've all been vital in his care. And so for us, really looking at some of their input, there are many times that we go to Karen or she'll come to us about things that maybe we need to do to tweak some of the treatment or things that he needs, and that's just been really helpful for us. So beyond our team, his extended family and friends too.
Thank you.
So, I believe this has been an incredible evening for me, and I think it's been an incredible evening for all of us. And so, on behalf of all of us, and Gabriella, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and our wonderful graduate assistant Mercedes has some special gifts for each of you, for Gabriella and for Buffy. Mercedes, come on out. You can just give it right to them. And Eric. Eric, what can we say? Eric, what can we say to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening? Thank you, Eric, for your diligence, your commitment, and your dedication. You are an incredible human being and an inspiring role model to all of us. However, while we know your favorite color is red and your favorite letter is R, here's a little blue and 3 more new favorite letters, S-H-U.
Thank you.
I'd just like to take just a few minutes, first of all, to acknowledge Eric's mother, Karen LeGrand, for her continued support of Eric. We have something for you, Mrs. LeGrand. Dr. Monaco and Mr. McCune, please accept a small token of our thanks for joining us this evening. It's all blue, by the way. I'd also like to acknowledge, again, Dr. Genevieve Zip, our IPE Task Force Chair, Associate Dean Mona Cedric, Assistant Dean Chris O'Brien. Chris, why don't you stand up and wave hello? SHMS faculty and staff, SHMS graduate assistants, and other volunteers from around the university who helped make tonight's event a success. And I don't know where there she is. And to Lori Riley, who better stand, our Director of Public Relations, Marketing, and Special Events, for planning this event from beginning to end. Lori, as I always say, YR, you rock. Many thanks to the Kessler Institute for Rehab. All of you from Kessler, please stand up. Many thanks to Seton Hall's Department of Public Relations and Marketing, especially Jen O'Sheal. Where are you? In the back. And Seton Hall Athletics, who even sent the pirate mascot. Where's our pirate? Is he still here? And obviously our cheerleaders over to help us out tonight. And at this time, I would ask Father Hall to come to the stage for the benediction. Father Warren Hall is the Director of Campus Ministry at Seton Hall. In his work in campus ministry, Father Hall specializes in ministry to athletes. He is currently engaged in research that seeks to understand the link between athleticism, sport, and spirituality. We are pleased to have him join us to offer a closing prayer. Father Hall.
Before I say the opening prayer, if I could just take the liberty here, just to ask Eric one more question. And that is, in this whole process, can you say something about how your faith has been a part of your journey so far?
You know, my faith in God has grown a lot since I've been injured, in the beginning. I really found out that God really does have a plan for everybody with this whole situation. And I can see it every day of my life, and all the endeavors that keep on coming along to me. I thank him every day for all this great stuff. It's just like one thing after another, one thing good here, one thing good here, one thing good here. Everything continues to happen as he gives me, just a everyday spirit to get up and go out there and just share my story and just my smile with everybody. I thank him for that, because like I said, without the hard work, the dedication I put into this, without believing in God, there's no way I would be where I am today.
Thank you very much. And so let us pray. Lord God, your Son Jesus came among us and made known to us that not only are miracles possible, that they should be expected. This evening we have been inspired with hope and courage in the person of Eric LeGrand. He too brings us a message that miracles are to be expected and will happen when we dedicate ourselves to making them happen. Although his number 52 has been retired, his work is only now gaining momentum, and his team LeGrand is moving full steam ahead. Lord God, continue to pour out your blessings upon him. For all of us look forward to that day when he will lead his fellow Scarlet Knights through the tunnel and onto that field when he walks again as he told us he would. We ask your blessing upon Eric's medical team and medical professionals everywhere who work to make miracles happen in the lives of countless people who once thought that the simple act of walking was no longer possible. St. Paul in the scriptures tells us, it is when the world perceives us as being weak that it is really then that we are strong. Jesus said, fear is useless, what is needed in faith. And as Eric pointed out tonight, Bob Marley said, don't worry about a thing. Because Lord God, when we place our trust in you, everything indeed is going to be okay. And we ask this prayer in Jesus' name, amen. Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton, pray for us.
Thank you, Father Hall. So this concludes our program this evening. Please remain seated until all of us exit the gym safely. Thank you all for attending the School of Health and Medical Sciences inaugural Interprofessional Perspective Series. Get home safely. Thank you, and go Pirates. And don't forget to join Team